Every morning in America starts the same way the alarm goes off. Traffic builds, and you sit in a small apartment wondering how another day slipped by. Outside, the streets are loud, but the people are quiet. Everyone's rushing, working, surviving. They once said cities were where dreams were built. Now, for many, it's where peace goes to die. The numbers tell the story. Rent in New York or Los Angeles eats half a paycheck. Groceries, gas, insurance. Everything costs more every month. People are exhausted working harder, but feeling poorer. In 2024, more than 4.9 million Americans left the country's largest cities. And when asked why, 73% said the same thing: cost, safety, and peace of mind. From San Francisco's tech burnout to Chicago's rising crime and New York's never-ending rent hikes, Americans are packing up. They're heading to places like Montana, Tennessee, and Idaho, where homes are cheaper. Skies are wider, and life feels real again. It's not about escaping the city. It's about taking back control of their lives. So why are millions trading glass towers for gravel roads? And what are they finding out there? Freedom or just another illusion? Stay with us. This is Discover Globe Places Top 10. And today, we're exploring why Americans are leaving big cities for rural freedom. 1. The urban burnout. They call it progress, tall buildings, bright lights, 24-hour coffee shops. But for millions of Americans, it no longer feels like progress. It feels like exhaustion wearing a suit. In Los Angeles, the average rent is now $2,800 a month, and that's for an apartment smaller than your first college dorm. In New York, you'll pay $400 for a single 35-square-meter room where the walls hear more stress than laughter. You make $6,000 a month on paper, but once you pay for the car insurance, taxes, and health care, you're left with maybe $400, just enough to survive, not to live. Every day begins before the sun. The alarm buzzes at 5:30 a.m., and you scroll through emails before your feet hit the floor. Traffic builds before breakfast. You grab a $6 coffee, not because it tastes good, but because you need something to remind you you're still awake. By 9 a.m., you're already tired. The city never stops moving yet. Everyone inside it feels stuck. The rhythm is always the same: work, traffic, rent, repeat. Lunch breaks are eaten in cars, weekends disappear into side gigs, and vacations are just wishful thinking. When you finally make it home, the view from your window is another apartment across the street, strangers living inches away, but worlds apart. The city has millions of people, yet somehow you've never felt more alone. The sounds of urban life blur into white noise. The ambulance sirens, the honking horns, the neighbors' argument through paper-thin walls. At night, the glow of neon signs replaces the stars you used to see as a kid. Even sleep feels rented, borrowed for a few hours before the next alarm. A recent survey found 62% of Americans say they feel trapped in the rat race. It's not just a number. It's a quiet truth whispered behind every locked apartment door. People aren't chasing dreams anymore. They're just trying to keep up with the bills. The city promised opportunity, and it delivered in exchange for time, health, and peace of mind. You earn more, but you feel less. You own more, but enjoy less. You start to notice it in small ways: how you forget what real silence sounds like, how you scroll endlessly to distract yourself from the emptiness, how you look forward to Friday, not because of joy, but because it's the one day you can breathe. The burnout isn't sudden. It builds quietly, paycheck by paycheck, until one day you realize the life you built no longer feels like yours. The city gave them opportunity, but took away everything that made life feel alive. 2. The rural revival begins. When the world stopped during COVID, something unexpected started: a quiet migration back to the land. As cities locked down and apartment walls began to feel like cages, millions of Americans realized they didn't need to live where their office was anymore. The laptop replaced the commute. A kitchen table became the new desk. And with that, the great urban exodus began. Between 2020 and 2025, the number of people moving to rural areas rose 37%, according to Redfin. States like Idaho, Tennessee, Alabama, South Dakota, Montana, and Arkansas became the new magnets for those chasing more space, more air, and fewer bills. Real estate agents who once sold condos in Miami or San Francisco are now selling cabins, barns, and small acres of farmland. The Ozarks, the foothills of Appalachia and Texas Hill Country, have all come alive again, not just with tourists, but with people calling them home. Across the country, a new kind of American is emerging. Young professionals hold Zoom calls on porches overlooking wide-open fields. Families grow vegetables and raise chickens instead of depending on grocery delivery. Retirees trade gated communities for mountain views and friendly neighbors who still wave. You can hear it in their voices, a kind of relief that only comes from finally breathing again. It's not about rejecting modern life. It's about redefining it. For decades, Americans were told that success meant skyscrapers noise and never stopping. But now they're proving the opposite, that connection, not congestion, is what makes a life worth living. Out here, time slows down, but meaning grows. They're not escaping society, they're rebuilding it from scratch. 3. Follow the money. When you strip away the noise, what really drives this migration isn't just peace, it's math. The numbers are brutally simple. In big cities, every breath feels taxed. The average home in California now sells for around $900,000. In Montana, you can buy a 3-bedroom house for about $180,000 sometimes, with a few acres of land thrown in. That's not just cheaper living. That's a completely different reality. Across America, people are doing the math for the first time in decades. A gallon of milk, a tank of gas, a trip to the dentist, it all costs less once you leave the city skyline behind. Property taxes that used to swallow paychecks are dramatically lower in places like Wyoming, Tennessee, and South Dakota. You can actually own your home, not rent it from the bank. The cost of living in small towns is 40 to 65% lower than in major metros, and the savings stretch even further when your neighbor grows your vegetables and the local mechanic knows your name. Here, the economy feels human again. People trade goods, not just invoices. You buy eggs from the farmer down the road. You fill your tank at a family-run station. Food travels 5 miles, not 500. Even fuel utilities and internet bills stay modest, not because the government changed, but because people still live within their means. Retirees on fixed incomes and remote workers are discovering that $500 to $2,000 a month buys not just survival, but comfort. A simple life with room to breathe. A front porch, a truck that's paid off dinner that didn't come from an app. For the first time in years, people are saving money instead of debt. They're buying back time, the one thing no city paycheck can offer. It's not just about escaping inflation. It's about restoring value to money, to effort, to life itself. Out here, peace doesn't come with a premium tag or monthly fee. It's part of the landscape, part of the air. In rural America, peace costs less than your city parking space. 4. Freedom and self-reliance. Out here, freedom isn't just an idea, it's something you can touch. It's the soil beneath your boots, the sound of wind instead of traffic, the taste of food you grew with your own hands. Across rural America, a quiet revolution is taking place. They call it off-grid living or homesteading, but really, it's people rediscovering what freedom used to mean. From Missouri to Alabama to Texas, counties are now encouraging residents to live more independently, offering tax breaks, small farm grants, and even training for sustainable living. The number of permits for solar homes has jumped 52% since 2021, and backyards once filled with lawn chairs are turning into vegetable gardens and chicken coops. The movement isn't about rejecting technology or progress. It's about taking back control, producing what you need, wasting less, and living without constant dependence on a system that feels more fragile every year. Everywhere you look, there are stories of people unplugging from the chaos. Families build small homes powered by the sun. Veterans buy 5 acres and turn them into self-sustaining retreats. Young couples raise goats and learn to bake their own bread. For many, it's not just cheaper, it's healing. The act of growing your own food or chopping your own firewood reconnects you to something cities forgot: effort with meaning. It's a slower rhythm, but one that feels right. You don't need permission to plant, to build, to breathe. The horizon is your neighbor, and silence is your friend. Here, success isn't measured by income, it's measured by independence. Freedom isn't in skyscrapers, it's in soil, sky, and silence. 5. Community and safety. If the city teaches you how to survive small towns, remind you how to belong. That's the difference, and for many Americans, it's the first thing they notice when they leave the skyline behind. In big cities, over 80% of people don't even know their neighbor's name. You share walls, elevators, and sidewalks, but not lives. The only time you meet your neighbors is when you both fight for the same parking spot. Out here, it's the opposite. In small towns, 70% of residents say they feel supported. That means when your car won't start, someone stops to help. When you're sick, someone brings food. When tragedy hits, the community gathers not because they have to, but because that's what neighbors do. There's no need for gated communities when everyone already looks out for each other. Crime is lower, stress is lighter, and faces are familiar. The small town routine isn't about fancy events or nightlife, it's about real connection. As one local said, the town potluck replaces the nightclub. Instead of noise, there's laughter. Instead of crowds, there's conversation. And the rhythm of life moves with purpose, not pressure. In places like Eureka Springs in Arkansas, Franklin in Tennessee, and Kalispell in Montana, communities once fading are now alive again. New families arrive, kids play in open fields, and people rediscover what it means to be safe, not just from crime, but from isolation. Because in a small town, you're not just another face in the crowd, you're part of something that still feels human. You matter, and others remind you of it every day. In a small town, loneliness has no place to hide. 6. New Americans of the countryside. They used to say only the old move to the countryside, not anymore. Today's rural revival is powered by millennials, with laptops, Gen Xers selling city homes, and retirees chasing peace instead of noise. The faces of rural America are changing, and they look nothing like the stereotypes. Millennials are leading the shift. With remote work now permanent, they're turning Wi-Fi into freedom. From barns to mountain cabins, they log into global meetings while looking out over endless fields. Gen Xers burned out by California mortgages and traffic are cashing out and moving east, buying homes outright for a fraction of what they sold. And retirees, they're finding safety, affordability, and dignity where neighbors still say good morning. Across states like Montana, Tennessee, and Arkansas, the countryside is no longer disconnected. High-speed internet now covers areas that once seemed off-grid. A designer in Idaho can work for a New York firm. An accountant in Alabama serves clients in 3 time zones. This isn't escaping modern life, it's reshaping it. They call it the hybrid life work, online live rural. People are trading apartment rent for an acre of peace traffic, for sunrise noise for meaning. And for the first time in decades, Americans are designing lives that actually fit them, not the other way around. They're not chasing the next promotion or paycheck anymore. They're chasing balance. Out here, time feels different, slower, calmer, honest. You can feel yourself again. They're no longer chasing success. They're designing sanity. Not everyone who leaves the city does it out of hate. Most just want to feel alive again. The city gave them jobs, structure, and ambition, but somewhere along the way, it took their soul. The constant noise, the pressure, the concrete that never breathes, all of it, became too much. The city, once the symbol of America's industrial past, now feels like a museum of burnout. Out here in the open countryside, people are discovering something new, or maybe something old, the simple joy of being human again. Rural life isn't about running away. It's about returning to meaning, to connection, to time that moves at a human pace. The fields, the skies, the silence, they don't judge you for slowing down. They remind you that you were never meant to live at the speed of machines. The city may have built the American dream, but the countryside is quietly rebuilding the American spirit. In the quiet, they found something the city could never sell: peace. So tell us, would you trade your skyline for a sunrise? Comment below, and don't forget to subscribe to Discover Globe Places Top 10, because somewhere between the noise and the silence lies your freedom.